you for tuning in. This is Dhruti Shah, and welcome to the Resilient Entrepreneur Podcast, where every month I bring to you the story of an entrepreneur who is proven to be unstoppable because they're resilient. This podcast is a culmination of my own story of resilience. As someone who taught herself early on to be mentally tough, I came to realize that success stories are great to remain motivated, but true learning happens when you fail, you stumble, you reflect, and you rise. This podcast is an attempt to bring to you, to my listeners, the situations that test your nerves, your grit, and your resilience. If you listen closely, you will hear the entrepreneurs reflect. And who knows, you may have some light bulb moments yourself. The Resilient Entrepreneur is brought to you by C2C OD, a firm that specializes in bringing people and strategy together. And welcome to the brand new season of the Resilient Entrepreneur Podcast. This new season is dedicated to social entrepreneurs who are not just grappling the challenges of a new startup, but are also in the business of changing mindsets and impacting lives. With that, let's meet my guest today. Coming right up. My guest today started his entrepreneurial journey over 20 years ago with tech and later with sports. Today, his company is India's largest sports platform for youth. Joining me in just a few minutes is Saumil Majmudar, co-founder, CEO, and managing director of Sportz Village, which aims to get 100 million children to play and win. Started in 2003, Sportz Village partners with schools, academics, parents, brands, CSR donors, and governments, helping them integrate their goals of holistic development of children, consumer engagement, and social impact into programs that help children experience the magic of play and sports. Sportz Village has touched upon the lives of over 7 lakh children in more than 2,000 schools across 22 states of India. Now, you won't be surprised to know that the founder of this amazing venture is himself a huge sports enthusiast. Yes, along with his IIM Bangalore and IIT Bombay credentials, Saumil also holds a black belt in karate and a basic mountaineering degree. One more bit about him before we bring him in. Saumil's recent book, Get Kids to Play, which he co-authored with Vijay Krishnamurthy, is making waves in the parent and school leader community for its utility as a toolkit to enable kids to play. And I am so excited to bring him on because I had also interviewed him for my book, The Resilient Entrepreneur, in 2020. As Sportz Village is well poised towards the goal of getting 100 million kids to play, here is Saumil to share this inspiring story. Hey, Saumil, welcome to the Resilient Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm so excited to have you here, especially having interviewed you for my book as well. I think this one is really, really special for me. Thank you so much for making the time.
No, thank you, Ruthie, for having me. Always good to chat. Enjoyed the conversation earlier during your book and looking forward to this one. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, for the sake of our listeners, Saumil, it would be great if you can start by sharing your journey. What's it mean like?
It's as an entrepreneur, I quit my job in Wipro in 1998, and we are in 2024. So do the math. 6 years of entrepreneurship. It's been fantastic. I wouldn't want anything else. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of adventure, a lot of heartburns, a lot of very high highs, very low lows. Met a set of wonderful people, all trying to push the boundaries, trying to do stuff that's not been done earlier. And some of these things self-select, right? And people who show up on the ride are also people who kind of want to do something else than what is maybe quote unquote normally available. So it's been a great ride, great bunch of people, great learnings, and happy to have finally at least being on my way to build a good institution at Sportz Village.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit more about Sportz Village. What is that about? Because there is a very clear target audience that you have in mind. latest book is evident of that. Get kids to play. So tell me a little bit more about your company as well. What is Sportz Village all about?
So Sportz Village, we do something very simple. We want to get kids to play. And that's what the book is
Mm-hmm.
about. Help get kids to
Yes.
and build a sustainable organization while doing it. Sustainable and scalable organization. And that's the challenging part, right? I mean, get kids to play sounds simple, but it's not. And there's a whole lot of challenges around space, time, content, facilitation, and just making that whole magic happen. As a business, what we do is we work with private schools where our edu sports program, our in-school structured, age-appropriate physical education and sports program gets implemented through as part of school timetable,
Mm-hmm.
nursery to 12th standard. We also work with a few higher education institutes. We work with corporates, both on the marketing budgets and on the CSR budgets in getting children to play in private schools or public schools. We work with governments in
Mm-hmm.
again, helping children to play in government schools or helping with talent development, high performance. And we have presence in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where we have our own academies, after school academies, where again we get kids to play. So broadly, get kids to play and trying to find anybody and everybody who wants to get kids to play and see how we can align their goals to kids' goals and make stuff happen and make magic happen. We want to get 100 million kids to play, Dhruti. We're today at 3 lakh kids. We work with 600 schools in India, work with 60 odd schools in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and work with governments. We're part of different boards. And we think we have a model of working with schools, and we think schools are the sustainable and scalable model for getting millions of kids to play.
Mm-hmm.
And that remains our focus now.
Absolutely. And you mentioned some of the constraints that you would have around maybe getting kids to play, right? And we've discussed that offline as well. What are some of the real challenges that you face? But as an entrepreneur, what are some of the roadblocks that you have faced in the past, or
So,
maybe continue to do so?
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So I think where my entrepreneur hat and just kind of abstract out from the sports journey into an entrepreneur journey. I think the good news was that the cause or the vision was very compelling, and maybe that's
Hmm.
one learning that if the vision is compelling, get 100 million kids to play, then good people come your way.
Mm-hmm.
Good co-founders, good team members, good early customers, good maybe investors, supporters who are
Mm-hmm.
wanting to be a part of this journey, saying, "Hey, you know
Yeah.
what? We helped and get 100 million kids to play." I think that's one
Mm-hmm.
important reminder that having that compelling vision, and sometimes maybe the reverse that if you're not getting support, ask
Mm-hmm.
yourself: Is your mission compelling enough? Is it aligning to what the world wants to do? Right? This is a
Yeah.
classic ikigai thing, right? What you want to do, what you are good at, and what the world values.
Yeah.
It might be that the world values intersection is not happening. So that's one part. The other part is this, I think any new category and sports education as a category that we are trying to build, or sports as a getting kids to play as a category. Any new category, I think, requires some amount of evangelizing, some amount of uh, advocacy, and
Mm-hmm.
the early support can come from unexpected quarters. So very often, as an entrepreneur, therefore, strategy is important. You need to have a strategy at every point of time. But I think we have to remain open to serendipity, which is
Yeah.
say, like in my case, we thought we'll sign up 100 schools in Bangalore back in 2009 when we started Edu Sports.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a first customer from Madurai, TVS school, who's still a customer after 15 years.
Wow.
Right? We got a second call from Raipur, and we're sitting in Bangalore.
Wow. Yes.
So strategy is important, but serendipity, the market is calling you. Should you go? There's no right or wrong answer. We went.
Yeah.
Somebody argued that stay in Bangalore, build your base. There's nothing right or wrong. It's just what we did. Similarly, we had a strategy that we will enable the school system to execute, but the customer said you need to have your own staff delivering it. So we moved from a consulting technology scalable model to a full service stack, as they call it. Maybe not as
Mm-hmm.
scalable model because the market told us this is what you need to. So I think listening to early customers, listening to early adopters was the second piece. The
Mm-hmm.
constraints, convincing people from capital point of view, in convincing good people to join and stay because the market is asking, hey, is this a real business? Are you going to achieve your objectives financially, professionally from it? So there is a whole lot of that happens with any new category.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
beyond a point, you can only answer it by your actions. And that will be my actions. Saying, look, I am here. I might be wrong. And that's the other part, right? I think we have to be vulnerable to say, hey, you know what? I might be wrong in my call, but I am all in. I think
yeah,
a lot of times people don't build businesses or ventures because they are not all in. And the other person sees it. You might say
yeah.
what you want, but your body language, your actions give it away that you are not fully all in. And if you're not fully all in, then why should I join you?
Absolutely. So that conviction that you have in what you're doing is equally important. So one is, I think, have very clear vision or that mission that you're talking about, which will attract the right kind of energy, the right kind of people around you, right? The second thing you said was, having a strategy is great, but remain open to serendipity and to chances in that sense, right? And there is, I like what you said there that, somebody may have thought that it may be a good idea to stick to Bangalore and then go elsewhere. But if you are getting calls from a Raipur or a Madurai, you're not going to say no. So I think there is no real formula or one size fits all kind of formula that works for everyone. I think you just have to go with either with your gut or just keep your ears open. Just keep your senses open and things
Yeah,
will happen.
and choices have consequences. And this is an adult word. Choices have
Yeah,
consequences. Our
yeah,
choice of going beyond Bangalore made our DNA to be a distributed service organization.
yeah,
Day one. Your
absolutely.
early choices pretty much define your DNA.
Hmm.
And it made our
Interesting.
DNA. So now distributed geographical delivery doesn't fail at all. We're fine.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
therefore, the culture, the people, the system, the processes are designed for distributed service delivery. Now,
Interesting. And you had that early success in a very unique way in that sense. You had not foreseen that, but you embraced it the moment it happened, rather than sitting and thinking and overthinking or overanalyzing it. You decided to just take the plunge. You also mentioned an interesting word over here, right? That you definitely have a bias for action, and you've shown that more than once. But you said all in. Most of the times, any entrepreneur who I've spoken to have never told me that I'm not all in. I think everybody believes they are all in. So if I can just ask you, what does all in look like for you?
it's a good question. I think all in is not necessarily only about finance, right? I mean,
Hmm.
I think it's about, does this venture grab your attention and your constant, all your thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're psychologically not committed to this project, it will
Mm-hmm.
show. And if you're talking to good people, and I'm assuming you want to hire good people, they will
Mm-hmm.
catch it. And if they can't
Mm.
catch it, you shouldn't be hiring them in the first place.
Yes, that's true.
So it's
Yes,
so it's just like a
absolutely.
circular loop of, who do you want to hire, right? So
Uh-huh.
me, all in means, all in doesn't have to mean, I bet my last, dollar on the venture and so on. I think all in
Mm.
means you're committed, but also being willing to stay, and I'll give you my context,
Mm.
stay vulnerable or open to say, hey, this is what I can do. For example, I, had a venture which had failed before I did Sportz Village in tech
Yeah.
support. So when I started, I told my other people who are coming saying, look, I don't have a bank balance, or it's not I have coming off selling a big company or to run this business. So I will need
Mm.
to find a way to keep my house going. So
Mm-hmm.
from for many months, from 9 to 12, I used to consult with Bikash, who was a common friend of ours. And then
Yes.
from 2 to evening 7, I should run Sportz Village.
Yeah.
Right. And I should tell people this is what I need to do. I mean, and I am not ashamed of it. This, you
Mm-hmm.
know, so I think all in doesn't have to mean that you have to be stupid about financial risks, but
Mm.
people need to see and you have to be prepared to be vulnerable to say, hey, this is, and be transparent saying this is what I'm doing.
Mm.
I think the problem happens when we want to say we're all in, but we actually have some other stuff to cover. For us, it just worked to be transparent, say, hey, this is the reality. And
Mm-hmm.
the other thing that shows, I think, is how we respond to situations. Many entrepreneurs I meet very often, within the first 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, there's some, setbacks, and they're like, okay, I want to go back to my job.
Mm. Yeah.
And I'm like, then why did you even play this game? I mean, it's like going to a Las Vegas casino, slot machine, putting
Yeah.
2 coins and saying, "Oh, I didn't win, so I'm giving up." So why did you even
Yeah.
put 2 coins? You might as well
Mm.
save those 2 coins.
Yeah.
If playing the slot machine, play 100 times,
Correct.
then you are playing.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I think all it doesn't mean doing stupid stuff, but all it just I think means to me, when I meet somebody, I can make out uh, is the person fully committed to this project or not.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think as you alluded to that early on as well, maybe the body language, it is the way you talk about it, it is how you, in your words, how psychologically committed you are in that sense. And that comes through in your behavior. So we always say, right, that it all starts with the mindset. And then it spills over into the behavior and actions in that sense. So those are things that you can see, those little trails of cues, or if you may say so, where you do figure it out that whether this person is really in it or not.
Yeah, also, Satya, I think the question is, why are good people going to come join an entrepreneur, right? It's not
Yeah.
because good people don't have other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I keep telling my team that I want people in my team who have 5 other job options and they still choose to be here. I don't
Yes,
want people who have no other jobs outside the city in Bangalore,
absolutely. And then, chalo, this is the last option we have, hence we've chosen Sportz Village. Shouldn't
right?
be the
So,
case.
so if good people are who have other options,
Yeah.
including starting their own venture, why
Mm-hmm.
would they join an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
It's not because of money upfront, right? They can make more money maybe in a job. They can maybe access money
Mm-hmm.
themselves. But there is a, let's say, a vision, there's a gap in the market and a risk reward ratio that they have in mind that they're comfortable
Mm-hmm.
with. And they want to
Yeah.
work with somebody who they feel they can trust and who has the commitment. Because very often the next people joining in are feeding off your commitment.
Yes.
Your commitment is weak, then it's a slippery slope down, right? You will not find.
Yeah.
In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine who's having some trouble hiring. And I think the question to ask is, are you fully in? If you're not fully in, people are not going to join.
Absolutely. So I think again it comes down to that, vision, and whether you have the clarity of the vision and the conviction that is needed in order to communicate that vision to people who you meet, because that's when they're going to have a stake in you, and they could be your team members or your investors or whoever that is. So what I'm also hearing is that when entrepreneurs are hiring, it's important to know your own why, but it's also important to know their why, the candidate that you're
Exactly.
planning to recruit. It's very important to hear that, whether they have the clarity in terms of why they are joining you. So I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
is,
And,
yeah,
and be vulnerable about, hey, things might not work, but if we are good people, we'll figure it out. So,
correct. Together.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So, Saumil, any particular challenges? Because I know that the entire concept that you have over here is not a typical run of the mill SaaS tech AI oriented thing. This is very unique. It's a social enterprise in itself, because you are. As we've introduced in our podcast as well, this season is all about social enterprises, right? And it's not just about grappling with the challenges of the startup, but it's also about impacting lives and changing the mindset of people. Are there any unique challenges that you face?
So I think social is the right word. The work we do is really a lot of social engineering in that sense, right? How do you make different stakeholders align to
Yeah,
result in getting kids to play finally?
correct.
So I think the first set of challenges were around just finding a viable model
Hmm.
because around getting kids to play.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's always the option of doing a job, setting up an NGO on the side, and getting some 100 kids to play in a right.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it. So therefore, the question of as an entrepreneur, what is your definition of success? I
Hmm.
have an island of excellence, one center where some 20 kids, 30 kids, 50 kids are learning and doing some stuff, or I could have something at scale. My definition of success was something that I can scale.
Mm-hmm.
There's no right or wrong about it. It's just what I wanted to
Yeah.
do. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, when I put that lens, a lot of the models that I tried kept failing. Not because
Mm.
they bad business by themselves, but they failed the scalability lens for me. Like
Okay.
we started Sportz Village, we had a ground. We thought we'll have a network of grounds across the country.
Mm.
Then we found very quickly, and maybe out of naivety we went in, we found that we're not getting access to real estate and related issues around it. So we
Yeah.
went to apartment complexes thinking here's where the kids are. That
Mm.
model I also found I couldn't scale it. It's not a business. It's a business, but it didn't work for my formula. Then we hired halls. Then we sold tickets for the World Cup. Then we did some sports adventure courses. Then we
Mm.
did corporate tournaments, corporate for HR well-being, corporate for marketing, right? Each of those businesses were good businesses by themselves, and they are now small parts of our overall business. But we're not. I was not able to see the scalability of that.
Yeah.
I was finding a model from 2003 to 2008. I kept iterating to find the model. And the EduSports model came in 2009
Mm.
after 6 years of trying multiple other models and of hopefully learning from them. And schools then kind of solved the problem that we had faced around logistics, around aggregation of kids, around collecting money for this, around making sure parents don't have to do pick up and drop, around making sure that's part of a larger learning experience. And
Mm-hmm.
EduSports model of integrating into the school kind of solved some of those pieces. But that model
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur came out of after like 7 or 8 pivots, as you would call it in entrepreneurship. So being able to
Wow.
pivot, where you pivot too early, pivot too late, pivot too often. My only metric was, will this be scalable? And that's what we did with this.
Yeah. And was that the one thing that actually kept you going as well in that sense? Because I wonder, how did you overcome these challenges, right? One thing very clearly that came across was you were willing to experiment. You were willing to take risks. You took that for those 5 or 6 years. The second thing that I could hear very clearly was uh, you were oriented towards taking action. You didn't think about it. You actually went ahead and you did it. For it, it was not something on a whiteboard which you formulated and said, yeah, okay, yeah, this is not going to work out. You actually went ahead and you rented those halls or the grounds or whatever that was. You realized this is not going to scale, and you parked it aside, right, and let it brew for some time. What else did you do in order to overcome those challenges? And that could be actions that you took, or it could be some, I know you're someone who loves making those checklists, right? So it could be something that you do from a mindset point of view. How do you overcome these challenges, Saumil?
So I can tell you, I mean, what I try to do broadly, I think as an entrepreneur, a lot of stuff that you said essentially is negative energy coming towards you.
Mm.
This is not working, this is not working, they're not paying, whatever, this failing. And when you go in, you're committed, you're convinced. So
Mm.
so that how do you handle the negative energy of your idea not working? Obviously, you believed it will work. That's why you tried it in the first place.
Yeah.
So therefore, finding a source of positive energy was one important piece to offset this
Mm.
negative energy, right? So
Mm.
play for me did that. I used to play a lot of football. I do treks. I do karate. So a lot of that helped me with just getting sources of positive energy. Family, of course, reading a lot. I think those are all things which either disconnected you from the issues that you're facing in business and gave you
Mm.
a moment of positive energy. And that then, so like one other rule I had was after 6:37 p.m., I don't take any decisions.
Wow. Okay.
So I find, at least for myself, that my energy levels are kind of going down and I'm in this, yeah, whatever mode.
Mm.
Next morning, I do my karate or I do play a game and then I sit and look at the same decision. I'm in this bring it on mode, right? It's the same me, same decision, same parameter, just 6:30 in the evening or later, or 6:30 in the morning or later, is a different mindset. So I
Interesting.
found my hack, if you will, of saying, okay, let me not take a decision when I'm low energy, when I'm tired, and we're like, just let's just finish it off.
Yeah.
Morning suddenly I'm charged. So that's one example of a hack. The other thing I think is this conviction that this is still going to be worth it whenever you solve it. While this is not working,
Yeah.
whenever you
Yeah.
solve the problem, it'll be worth it. If that
Yeah.
is not true, then these energies, then very quickly get into this. Hey, are you, come to the real world, and this is not working. And to
Yeah.
be fair, to a few of my friends did call me around 2006, 7, 8, which is 4, 5 years into my journey,
Yeah.
saying, "What? Maybe there's no business here. Come to real world, join a VC fund, or become a CEO of a company." And I was like, maybe you're right, but I still
Mm.
haven't reached the point to say, I've tried everything I could.
Hmm.
And I think that's one very important piece, which maybe comes from partly from home, partly from education, that if you find a juicy problem, how do you solve it is just so, I don't know, so enchanting that you just can't
Hmm.
let go of it. You
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
solve that juicy problem.
yeah.
And you know that if you solve it, it's going to be worthwhile, not just for you
Hmm.
financially, professionally, but for the world outside. So for me, it
Exactly.
was like the what people call opportunity cost. For me, it was like the opportunity cost of not doing it.
Uh-huh.
You have a
Yeah.
chance to make a positive impact to the world and do what you love and make money at some point.
Wow.
Why
Yeah.
not?
How can you miss out on that opportunity, right? Of
Yeah, why
making
not?
that impact. And they're also on kids. They are our future global citizens. And, if we can do anything in order to make an impact over there, a positive impression, why not?
Yeah.
So,
On
some
that point,
amazing
agree.
things. Yeah.
Why not always makes life a lot more interesting than why. So, as a
That's
philosophy,
a good one. Why not? That is so true. When you think about it, and you were right in that sense, right? There's a lot of negative energy every day that comes at us. It could be in the form of people, it could be in the form of failed attempts, anything at all, right? Even when you're driving down the road, there could be some negative energy that you get attracted to, right? And you go in this downward spiral in terms of your thinking process. And I think that's the important bit in terms of recognizing, being self-aware to see that, oh God, I'm headed there.
correct.
Let's pull myself back. How am I going to do that? I love the fact that you take a cognitive break when needed, when you sense that low energy, when you know that you're going to make this,
I never thought of calling it cognitive break, but I see what you say.
yeah, it is, isn't it? Because what you said, that I don't make any important decision maybe after 6:30 or 7, or when I'm in that low energy mode, you are essentially giving a break to your brain and kind of disengaging it, disassociating yourself or detaching yourself from that situation in that moment. You are going to come back to it, it,
Yeah,
and in
yeah.
your own words, bring it on, right? Why
Right.
not? Why not?
Yes.
The other thing I also heard, while you were talking about it, right, was that absolute faith and the belief that you have in what you're doing. And you're absolutely right. When startup becomes about a means to an end, there is a bit of a challenge. But when you're solving for a larger problem, and I've heard this from many entrepreneurs, that the problem that we're trying to solve is so big that it does need all our attention. It does need all our resources that we can bring in, and we are not giving up on this. I love the fact how you said that you had to support your family, right? Financially speaking, we would do consulting gigs, and you work on your startup the rest of the time. I mean, it's amazing how your brain works in that sense, because you have a very solution oriented mindset. You don't get bogged down by the challenges. You don't stare at them until you have to stare. You have to look down, but you actually look at it in the eye and say, "Okay, I see you, and I'm going to do something about it." I think that tenacity that you have is pretty phenomenal, Saumil. Not everyone has that.
That's very kind of it. Never thought about it this way. I think the equally importantly, if there's something that I can't do about it, then why worry about it? I mean, look, either I can
There
solve
you
it
go.
or I can't, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
if I can't change the fact that sun rises in the east, well, rise in the east. I mean, come on, get on with it, right?
Yeah, just take it for what it is and move
Yeah.
on, right? Yeah, absolutely. Somil, again, tons of experience that you've had. You've seen other entrepreneurs maybe flourish or perish, unfortunately. You've been in the ecosystem for such a long time. If there is one advice that you would want to give these entrepreneurs, what would that be?
Yeah. So I think if you defined your vision broad enough, and sometimes it's very important to frame your vision correctly. Like in our case,
Hmm.
we said we want to get kids to play. We are agnostic to how we want to get kids to play, tech, non-tech, physical facilities, schools, whatever. So that
Hmm.
vision gave us infinite degrees of freedom.
Yeah,
So if you define the vision broadly enough, then the only reason you will fail is when you give up.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And today there are so many support systems. The cost of doing business is going down so much. Software is available, people are available on gig models, there are networking opportunities, there are social media for you to amplify stuff, that if you really are solving a good problem and have a good sense of the market, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And I think time as the competitive edge is something entrepreneurs should think about. We always start thinking time only 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, which is a very VC, which is a very venture fund-based thinking.
Yeah.
I forget who, one of the big investors out of the Bay Area had done this study over 30 years of ventures as to which ventures succeeded, failed on different parameters. I forget
Okay.
who it was, including amount of funding, quality of team, quality of product. And the only single parameter he found which is differentiating big successes from failures was timing. A
Okay.
MySpace came, a Facebook came. MySpace had, right? So think
Yeah.
about that, right? So it's not like there were no search engines earlier. It's not like there was a certain timing at which mobile phone, internet, all those things came together, and that. So if you can just stay alive till the big waves come, and when the
Figure
waves
out a
come,
way.
you have to
Yeah.
be in the right direction. Then you ride the.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely. And also know when to pivot, or also know when to take a pause, I think is also equally important, because a lot of entrepreneurs, they listen to this and they're like, oh, I just need to stick around. But I think it's important to be aware of, from a timing perspective as well, and also in terms of the product market fit. What is it that is already out there? Is your problem really so unique that you're trying to solve? I think that analysis is really important as well for every entrepreneur to be able to understand how they are solving for it, right? So I always say that resilience is not just about sticking it out or bouncing back. Resilience is also about knowing when to stop.
Correct.
And pivot.
I think equally
recalibrate.
resilience happens when you know how to leverage.
Yeah.
Leverage. Growing up, I was explained the notion of leverage with this nice example of Aristotle saying that I can move the earth. He's an old man. He said, I can move the earth. People said, what nonsense. He said, no, give me a place to stand and a stick long enough. Using the moon as a fulcrum, I'll move
My
the earth.
God.
Long enough stick and a place to stand. An old man can move the earth. That's leverage.
Yeah.
When your least effort creates disproportionate outcomes.
Yeah.
And time in the same space is a huge leverage. We see it today. For the last almost 8-10 years, and you've been one of them, right? People who know about other stuff in sports just send me a message. Did you know this? People say to other people, go meet Saumil. Go meet people at sports. It's not just me, it's my company. Right? So it's like we're just getting market information, we're getting new access to new investors, new team members. We're not doing anything at all. We're just doing what we do.
You set the wheels in motion.
Over time, our leverage is people who know us and hopefully think good of us. Leverage can also be negative if you are not doing a good job.
Yes.
But so I think leverage is the important piece, and different people have different leverages.
Amazing. And as an entrepreneur, you should know when to activate that, right? And how do you go about it?
Your network is leverage. But over time you'll find if you're really in the competitive world, your competition also has the same network. Has the same smarts, has the same product after a point of time, all that. Therefore, your leverage over time also becomes what you invested in your whole ecosystem around. And are you willing to stay long enough?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where I think your compelling vision comes in, which will help you stick around for long enough and say that I'm not here to quit. I'm here to get 100 million kids to play, and I'm going to do it in whatever way and form I can. Right?
Yeah. If tomorrow AI can help us get kids to play, we'll use AI.
Why not? Yeah, absolutely. Amazing. Thank you so much, Saumil. It's been such a brilliant conversation and so many nuggets of wisdom shared by you. Really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
The conversation as always, Jyoti. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Another great conversation with another inspiring entrepreneur. I can never get tired of this. And this one more so because This entire thing around sports and, getting kids to play. I have a 12-year-old, and that's been something that I've constantly be harping about. You need to get out. You need to play. There are so many skills that you learn. So I can completely resonate with everything that Saumil said. And I am signed up. I'm one of the followers, one of the people who'll always say, go for it, Saumil. We are with you in this mission. Let's bring in my producer, Rimana. What did you think of this conversation?
Well, Ruthie, completely agree with you. I love the concept of Sportz Village as well, for the very reason that you pointed out, right? I think children these days have too much screen time, too many gadgets, too much of social media. So they do need to go out, play, just build the physical and the mental well-being as well. So love the idea behind the company.
Yeah.
And another thing that stood out for me, and which I'm definitely sure it stood out for you as well, is his clear vision, right?
Yeah.
That he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what he wants to do, where he wants to be. I love that, Ruthie. I know it must have definitely resonated with you. What do you think?
100%. I cannot agree more. His statement, if your vision is compelling, good people will come your way. It is catchy, it is profound, and it just talks about him as a human being as well. How sometimes I feel, how are people so sorted? It is really amazing. And it's about reflecting on that idea that a strong vision can drive you towards your goals through the power of the subconscious mind. So, a lot of people say, just manifest it, put it out there in the universe, and it will happen. And that's one of the things which, having that belief and having that faith, even as an entrepreneur, is so critical and so important to your success. So absolutely. And one more thing which I do, and Saumil talked about it as well, this practice of taking a cognitive break by going completely offline after 6:30 or 7. And he also mentioned that he avoids any important decisions during that time. I think that's phenomenal, and kudos to Saumil for having realized that. So overall, a great conversation, Ramana.
Absolutely.
All right, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode. We'll see you again very soon with another inspiring entrepreneur. Until then, take care. Goodbye. This is Dhruti Shah signing off.